Hello, welcome once again to Inside Out. Today we're going to be talking about the first habit of highly effective people. And the title of today's video is Just Do It, playing on that Nike slogan. The first habit is to be proactive. And we all begin our lives tremendously dependent on our parents, right? We're born and we really can't do anything without mom and dad. And as human beings, eventually we develop an evolutionary advantage over the other species on Earth, but those first few years, it looks pretty critical. And if we were to lose that protection from adults, we really wouldn't make it. And the first habit is the first step towards personal victory and towards independence. A lot of times when we think of our lives as adolescents, we experience this stage as painful. And adolescence is usually described as a period in which independence is achieved. It is more accurate, however, to talk about a change in the balance of independence and dependence with other parts of the young person's system, right? So parents, brothers and sisters, peers, schoolmates, community, whatever, the relations are changing. And the greater independence that we experience during adolescence is actually, it's part of that process of maturing and something that's very good. And so let's look at proactivity as a way to foster independence. And one of the first things that I think we should look at is the social mirror, right? The way we see ourselves, when we're looking at a mirror, when we're looking at ourselves, well, a lot of times our social mirror, the way that we're gaining consciousness and awareness of ourselves, is actually by what others say about us. And some people might be positive, some people might be negative, but a lot of what they say form our perceptions even of ourselves. But we have to be careful to not allow ourselves to be determined by that. Determinism is one of the dangers we have to be careful with, because we can think of Pavlov's experiments. He would ring the bell and the dog would salivate. Well, how did that happen? Well, first he was conditioning the dog. He would ring the bell and then feed the dog. And so the dog, when the bell rang, he would come because that's when he was going to be fed. But then eventually, just the bell ringing was enough to cause saliva to form in his mouth. And we can become like that. We can become purely reactive people, where external stimuli make our decisions for us. But as humans, we're called to a freedom to choose. And Covey says, between stimulus and response, man has the freedom to choose. Animals simply react. Humans are more reflexive, at least in our nature, that's what we're able to do. And Covey identifies four basic human endowments that go between, the stimulus and the response and allow freedom to really be played out. Imagination is the ability to create in our minds beyond our present reality. So I remember growing up pretending to be Luke Skywalker. And so you might be sitting on the couch, but in your mind, you're flying an X-Wing fighter. Or you take a wiffle ball bat, and you're pretending that you have a lightsaber. And so we have really this power of imagination, and it's something we think of a lot of times in relation to kids, but really it's something that we all have. We're all able to, we're able to daydream. We're able to imagine reality. We're able to imagine things beyond the reality in which we are living. Then we think of conscience, which is that deep inner awareness of right and wrong. It's that moral compass that we all have. And independent will is the ability to act based on our self-awareness, free of all other influences. We're able to rationally analyze a situation and then decide what to do. And all this is based on the first basic human endowment, which is self-awareness. That what we do, we're able to reflect on it and see its value and see how it fits in with the greater picture. Now, how would we define proactivity? Proactivity is more than merely taking initiative, right? It means that as human beings, we are responsible for our own lives. And that's one of the things that I love about this habit, is it allows us to take ownership of ourselves and really to own our own actions. We decide about our behavior, we don't merely respond to external conditions. We are by nature proactive. If our lives are a function of conditioning and conditions, it is because we have, by conscious decision or by default, chosen to empower those things to control over us, to have control over us. right? And so we're able through the proactivity through ourselves acting, we're able to take back control for ourselves. Being reactive puts us at a greater risk for unhappiness. While being a control freak is not a good thing, it's also not good to not have control over anything, right? We need to have a certain self-determination. That's part of who we are as human beings. Reactive people are driven by feelings, by circumstances, by conditions, by their environment. Whereas proactive people, we think about and reflect on values, and then this becomes really like part of our moral core and helps us to make good decisions. It's important as well to listen to our language. How do I speak to myself? Self-talk. This is a psychological concept that can be helpful as well, because we can be very negative towards ourselves. Just like we saw before in that social mirror, the way others perceive us, that can form the way we see ourselves. But then the way we talk to ourselves. When I make a mistake, do I say, "Oh, you're stupid," or do I say, "You made a mistake"? And that's part of being human, and that's okay. And now you have to work to correct that mistake. But it doesn't mean that you're a bad person, right? It doesn't destroy that moral fiber and character that you have. And we have to be really careful with those internal conversations, because it's natural for us to believe ourselves. And so when we're talking to ourselves in a negative way, well, we're setting ourselves up for failure. And when we talk to ourselves in a positive, encouraging way, we're setting ourselves up for success. Another key concept that I'd like to share is the circle of influence, right? We all have our circle of influence, those things that are around us that we're able to affect change. And then probably bigger than that circle of influence is a circle of concern, things that we worry about, things that we would like to make better. And most of the time, the circle of concern is going to be bigger than the circle of influence, right? There's more things that we're concerned about than things that we're actually able to affect change. And so this is something but it's also something we can work on. And if we actually apply the habits and we are dealing with others in a responsible way, we can actually expand our circle of influence, and we can make ourselves kind of points of reference for those around us. Proactivity can be life-changing. Nike's slogan, "Just Do It," can serve as a reminder of this principle. By learning to act positively, we overcome our reactive nature and feel more and more comfortable in our own skin. We have won the first battle on the road to personal victory and personal independence. So just do it, be proactive, first habit. See you next week. God bless.